What's going on, people in YouTube land? Kimchi Chris here, and welcome to today's video where we are going to talk about the stadium tour of 2020, the rock tour as of this time of recording for 2020, the big reunion tour for one of these bands. That's right, we are talking about the stadium tour. That's right, they couldn't come up with a better name. That's what they're calling it, the stadium tour, and it's starring a reunited Motley Crue. It's starring Def Leppard. It's starring Poison, and it's starring Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And let's really break this tour down because it's a very perplexing thing in a lot of people's minds. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on this tour, but at the end of the day, you can't argue with success, and that's why I waited to make this video. I wanted the tickets to go on sale. I wanted to see how these shows were going to do, and we're at that point. So talking about the ticket sales so far and the venues themselves seems like a logical place to start because this was one of the things that a lot of people, myself included, were speculating on. These are big bands. These are really big bands, and Motley Crue, you know, pulling the reunion card, even if a lot of people are mad at them, it's still a draw at the end of the day. But could these bands really fill stadiums in 2020? Was this possible for these bands that all peaked in popularity in the mid to late 80s? Well, the results are in. These places are filling up. Some of them are selling out or getting darn close with having just, you know, the meet and greets, the resale tickets, the platinum tickets, things like that left, but all the regular tickets are flying out the door. And of course, the prices for meet and greets and things of that nature were outrageous. If you really want to do the ultimate Motley Crue meet and greet experience with your ticket and everything, it was something like $4,500 a person, which is a lot of money. But you could get your butt in the door for a reasonable price of $200 or less. Some markets even had tickets as low as $60 for the nosebleed ones, and you know, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a show, but when you're getting four big bands, you know, it's understandable, because if you went to go see all these bands and piece them out on their own, you're gonna spend that much money or more. And while I know some people will argue the other side of this, I do think they made it accessible to pretty much every price point. Even though $60 is a lot for nosebleed seats, you gotta factor in these are stadiums. Yeah, you won't be able to see anything from those seats, but you know, it might be better in the case of some members on stage. It is what it is. Stadiums are expensive to rent. This production is not going to be cheap to run. They're only doing it at 22 cities as of now. I really could see them adding some in with how these ticket sales are doing, but they had to make it worth their while, and these bands are not cheap to book, so it is what it is. And the fact that they're filling up these stadiums proved everybody wrong that was a naysayer, myself included to a degree. I wasn't really sure they'd be able to fill these places up, but they're doing it well, and more power to them. Props, guys, and girl, in the case of Joan, you're filling these places up. But nobody's coming to these shows just to sit in a stadium and spend money and eat overpriced hot dogs. They are coming to these shows to see the rock and roll, to see these classic rock, iconic bands that, you know, have been around quite a while, but are they all up to the standard that they need to be to play in stadiums? Well, that's something that we're going to delve into, and I'm just going to give my opinion on these bands and their current states of, I don't know, of physique and performance, I guess, because I've seen all of them multiple times over, and some of them in recent years, and I'm a fan of all these bands. I am a fan of all these bands of varying levels, but let's just break it down on a band-by-band basis because that seems like the most logical way to do it here. So opening up these shows, you have the most arguably rock and roll act of the tour. You have Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Definitely the odd man out, if you will, on the tour, considering you know, Joan's a she, and also they're not a hair metal band, you know, they're more of a straightforward rock and roll band, punk rock, whatever you want to call it, but they, you know, really did rise to fame in the 80s, of course, so at least that part of it fits on the bill. And I've seen Joan a couple times. I saw her a couple years back playing with Cheap Trick and Heart, actually, and her and her band put on an amazing show. It was really fun. They are in prime shape. Joan looks great. She sounds great. The backing band was amazing. They played, of course, all the hits with a few obscure songs scattered in here and there, and depending on the length of set they get, I could see them doing that with this tour. So I think this is a wonderful addition. It's a surprising one. Don't get me wrong. It might have made more sense to get something like, I don't know, Whitesnake or Tesla or something of that ilk, but you know, it's very cool that Joan is on there. I think this is a huge opportunity. With this being a Live Nation tour, it makes sense that they were going to pull from that plethora of opening acts, so to speak, so they weren't going to get some of these more obscure hair metal bands and things of that nature. I know I even saw someone talk about the Bullet Boys because they're reuniting, and I don't know, that wouldn't have been as big of a thing. I don't really think the name recognition is there. Joan is a very good add-on, and I really do see her bringing something different to the table as far as this show is concerned. So I think she's a wonderful addition to the bill personally. I think she should be at least one more spot up, but you you know, it's all about draw, and I get it, but I am looking forward to seeing Joan if I go to one of these shows. And next up on the bill, you do have a band that admittedly does have bigger name recognition than Joan, so it makes sense why they're second, even though in my heart they are not on that level. I would put Joan definitely above them, and that would be Poison. Now Poison, they're a band that, you know, a lot of people look at them as being a cheesy band in 2019 currently, and definitely still will in 2020. Most notably because of the hair metal tag, because of Bret Michaels and his, you know, newfound fame from a couple years back with The Rock of Love and his weird solo albums that I'm just not a fan of. But at the end of the day, when you go see Poison, they're fun. That's what Poison is. Poison is a fun band. I saw them last summer. Was it last summer? Or was it this summer? Last summer, yeah, last summer with Cheap Trick. I saw them last summer, and kind of similar to this, Cheap Trick I felt should have been playing over them, but they still put on a good show. It was very entertaining. They played exclusively the hits, and that's my only point of contingents with the current version of Poison, and really the version of Poison that has been performing for the past, you know, 15 or 20 years at this point. I've seen them quite a few times through the years, and admittedly I've always been there for other bands. I've seen them again with Cheap Trick last summer, I've seen them with Kiss, I've seen them with Motley Crue before, things of that nature, and every time I've seen them, they played the exact same set, just in a different order basically, and that's a little bit weird to me. I mean, I know a lot of these classic rock bands stick to the hits, but these guys don't insert anything new, nothing at all. I mean, really the only curveball they had last summer was Rock and Roll All Night, and that's not even that much of a curveball. Pretty sure that they've played that in the past when I've seen them. They've recorded it, even though they don't normally play it in their more opening type sets, and they were headlining last summer. That being said, even though I know exactly what they're going to play, you know, opening with Look What the Cat Dragged In, and going right into something like Fallen Angel or Unskinny Bop or something of that nature, it's still going to be a fun time to see Poison, because it's always fun. They still perform very well. Bret still has a good voice, and Ricky Rocket's still a very entertaining drummer. CC is what he is. Bobby is cool. So it'll be interesting to see them on there, I suppose, or I don't know if interesting actually is the right word, but I don't know. It's like comfort food. You know what you're getting, you know it's gonna be fun, or if you don't like it, you know what you're getting and you know it's not gonna be fun, but one way or another, Poison's there, and they're gonna be Poison, and it's gonna be fine. So depending on which show you get, the next part of the bill will change show to show. Def Leppard's gonna be headlining some of them, Motley Crue's gonna be headlining some of them, but let's talk about Def Leppard, since they're the band that's not reuniting for this. They're the one that's been around and kicking, and I don't have anything bad to say about them. I really don't. I've seen them a number of times. It's always a very, very good show. It's very spot on. The production's really good. Similar to these other bands, they basically play the hits, but you know, they did play some new stuff. The last time I saw them from their self-titled record that they released a couple years back, and I personally think that's a wonderful record. It's a great return to form, really good record, their latest one there, and I hope they have kept some of those songs in the set, but who really knows. With this one, I'm sure their set will be a little bit shorter at least, and they'll probably stick to the hits, but they all perform really, really well. The songs sound like they should. The guys look good. Altogether, it's a good show. It's a polished show. It's very polished. That's the thing when you see Def Leppard. It seems very, very polished. It seems like these guys were really in a rehearsal studio working on this stuff, and they don't skip a beat. So that's all there really is to say about Def Leppard. It's not a whole lot, because it's all positives. And, you know, fostering positivity in these videos can be kind of hard sometimes when you're talking about these older bands, but so far there hasn't been much negative to say in general about this tour. But now we're back to Motley Crue and their big reunion for this tour. One of the most polarizing rock and roll events to happen this year. Some people are pumped about it. Some people are so mad about it because they did the farewell tour a couple years back, they had the contract and all those other things, and I'm of the opinion that, you know, every band reunites. For the most part. If you actually buy that it's a farewell tour from pretty much any band the first time around, you're dumb at this point. It's not how it is anytime. It's never like that. It's never final the first time around. They are going to do the farewell tour, then a couple years back they're going to come back and do a reunion tour, then inevitably they'll do another tour after that reunion tour that probably won't do quite as well, and then they'll do a second farewell tour, and then they might actually fade away, but I don't know. There's some bands that just haven't. You know, and there's some that go on the farewell tours for a really long time, but you know, that's how rock and roll is at this point. Between all the bands we love like Kiss, Slayer, Ozzy, all these guys that are on these farewell tours currently have been on them a really long time. I know Slayer just officially finished up and they're claiming they'll never be back, but we'll see. We'll see. I could see Slayer possibly not coming back because they're pretty, you know, they haven't strayed from the path too much, and they were never as commercial of a band. But you know, with Kiss, of course, this is their second time around. With Ozzy, this is his second time around, and you know, so it's not too surprising that these guys are back. And with that being said, a lot of people, again, are excited, and a lot of people are mad. But with Motley Crue, you can really sum up what the show's gonna be like by the members themselves and their ability or inability to perform. So let's start with the good. Let's start with the good. Let's start with Mick Mars. Yeah, the guy can't move around great. He doesn't look well, and I'm honestly concerned about him. And I really am, because he's my favorite member of Motley Crue, and I think his sound is really what defines the band. But boy, oh boy, can that guy still play, can he shred, and he is such an underrated guitarist. And he's always been underrated. He's a ridiculous player, and really, when you think of the Motley Crue sound, he's what I think of, that just that certain tone that only he has, that certain style of playing, and I just think he's great. So he'll be wonderful on stage, even if he's just standing still, even if they have him sit in a chair, that'd be fine by me. He's going to sound really, really good. And next up, you have Nikki Sixx. Someone who really likes to run his mouth and likes to be in the media, and you know, with his whole arguments about Steel Panther and things of that nature, it all makes sense that he wanted to get in the media landscape for this upcoming tour. We didn't know that at the time, but that was his way to do it. But he can still perform really well. He can move around, he looks all right, he can still play bass pretty good, and you know, there's not really anything too negative or too positive to say about him. He's kind of the middle ground of everything when you're talking about the individual members of Motley Crue. And next up, on the other hand, we have Tommy Lee, a drummer that also is an underrated drummer and still a good drummer, but he doesn't want to do this. He's made it very obvious time and time again that he's done with Motley Crue. Whether it's the not showing up to meet and greets years back, which would make me very cautious of buying a meet and greet from them now, or all of the hip hop and dance and DJ stuff he's done through the years. He's done with Motley Crue. He is over it. And regardless of him being a good drummer or not, he is over this. You know, in a lot of the interviews and stuff in recent time, he's said he's excited to play these songs again, but I don't believe that. I believe he's excited to get that paycheck. That's what I believe, because he knows he'll make more money with this than he will his DJ and side project gigs. You know, anybody remember Methods of Mayhem, for example? Regardless, he's still a competent player, and I'm sure he'll be fine on stage for the most part. His heart just isn't in it. And then there is the elephant in the room, and I do mean elephant. We have Vince Neil. Let's just be honest. I'm trying to stay as positive as I can in this video, but the guy can't sing anymore. He just cannot sing anymore. He doesn't look good. He doesn't move around good. He seems like a good guy to hang out with in a weird roundabout way. Like, I could see him being the guy that you meet at the bar, and he buys you a drink, and he tells you about his crazy life, and says, oh yeah, I was in Motley Crue at one point, and you just don't believe him. And then you look in his eyes and you say, wait a second, you used to be Vince Neil, didn't you? And he goes, yeah, I sure did. And then you bond with him, and you realize that you were hanging out with the singer from Motley Crue. And that's what I kind of consider him at this point. He seems like he'd be a cool guy to hang out with, but I don't know if he's really up to snuff as far as performing goes, but he's got a year to get ready. He can work out, he can exercise, and he can go the Paul Stanley route, if you know what I mean, with the vocals. So I think he stands a chance of performing well. And of course, it's Motley Crue, so the show itself, the production value will be huge. It will be over the top. There will be pyro, there will be, you know, big video screens, there will be Tommy Lee probably flying across the stadium and into the parking lot and to your neighbor's house on his drum set upside down from a spaceship. So there's gonna be something to watch at the very least, even if you don't care about the sound. It's gonna be an entertaining show visually, just like they've always been. So you know what? Props to Motley Crue, and props to them coming back and making the people that are excited to see them again. So as a result, this is going to be a fun tour. I knew this was going to be a success from when it was announced, or even when it was rumored, and I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good time. I don't know if I'm going to be attending it. There's a show in Atlanta, Georgia, which is only like a 4-hour drive from me, and it seems kind of worth it. I didn't pick up a ticket yet. There's not a lot of good ones available right now, but just like a lot of shows, you know, they're going to be opening up spots that don't use from the guest list, as well as those meet and greet ones that don't sell and things of that nature. They'll be opening those to regular price down the line. So I don't know if I'm going to go or not, but I do have some opinions on it, obviously, and it'll be very interesting to see how this tour goes once it starts rolling next year. It's a really long way away still, and it's doing well. It'll be cool to see too if they like add some shows or something of that nature, because I could very much see them doing that with how these numbers are going. But with that being said, what do you guys have to say about this tour? Are you going to one of the shows? Are you excited about it? Do you love one of the bands? Do you hate one of the bands? Let me know in the comments below there. And if you are new on this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the alarm so you actually get the updates. We're doing rock and roll and Kiss content all the time on this wonderful channel. Hit that thumbs up so I actually, know that you care just a little bit. And once again, my name is Kimchi Chris, and I will see you guys on the next video.